What's going on, guys? Jonathan here with TLD, back with part deuce of the MacBook Pro upgrade series. And since the last video, I was actually able to pick up 16 gigs of RAM for this monstrosity. I was able to find it on sale for $299, and when you compare that to OWC or Crucial, which is about $600, it is an extremely good deal, and I'll post a link down in the description if you guys are interested in checking that out. Now, before I get started, I know some of you guys are going to freak out and say, "Oh my god, Jonathan, what are you doing? You don't need 16 gigs of RAM, it's overkill." And while true, most people won't use 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you are, however, using programs like Adobe After Effects CS5, any of these 64-bit applications, the more RAM you can throw at it, the better it's going to perform. I also come from a music background, so for those of you guys that have used Logic or Pro Tools, you know that virtual instruments eat up memory. So again, the more you can throw at it, the better. And for the three of you guys that have asked about my music before, here's a quick clip. And if you guys want to check out the full song, that link is also in the description. Now for this video, I'll strictly be doing a single hard drive to SSD upgrade for those of you guys that just want to do that. And in the following video, that's where we'll be taking out the optical drive, throwing both SSDs, putting them in RAID, and hopefully getting some insane performance. As a precursor to this video, there's a couple things you need. Obviously the SSD or the hard drive you're upgrading to, a Phillips screwdriver, a Torx screwdriver, and then since we'll be doing a fresh install of OS X Lion, you will need a thumb drive. Now before we open up the MacBook Pro, we're going to take that thumb drive and we're going to make sure we have an OS X Lion install drive. So we're going to pop the USB drive in, head over to Disk Utility, then we're going to erase it and make sure it is formatted properly. Once that's done, we're going to download the Lion Utility program. I'll post a direct link in the description for you guys. We'll go ahead and install it on the drive, and now we are ready to open up the MacBook Pro. First thing we're going to do is make sure the MacBook Pro is powered off. Then we're going to flip it upside down. Preferably if you have a blanket or a soft cloth, use that so you don't scratch your MacBook Pro. There's going to be 11 screws you got to get through, so we'll be using that Phillips screwdriver. Luckily, through the magic of video, we'll speed this up. But just a quick tip, I like to use a little water cap or Gatorade top just so you can throw the screws in there. They're extremely small and extremely easy to lose, so this will help you keep them in place. Once the screws are out, we're going to pop the top, lift the lid, and you will see everything exposed. Now the first step to removing the hard drive, we will need that Phillips screwdriver again. So there's a little bracket furthest away from you. Go to unscrew that. You actually don't have to pull the screws out there. Just kind of leave them in there and set it aside. And then below that, there's going to be two more Phillips screws we got to remove. Once we do that, we can pull out the hard drive, and it's actually going to be attached to the SATA and power cable. So go ahead and gently remove that. And then we're going to remove that little plastic tab we used to remove the hard drive in the first place. So go ahead and pull that off, set that to the side again. And then lastly, we're going to need the Torx screwdriver for this one. There's 4 screws on each corner of the hard drive, so it's going to remove those, set those aside because we're going to have to put those on the new drive as well. Now before we connect anything, we're going to take those 4 screws, put them on the new drive, and then take that plastic tab and attach it to the new drive as well. And then once we have those in, then we can connect the power and SATA cable, and then we can go ahead and slip it back into the MacBook Pro. And then in reverse order, we'll go ahead and use the Phillips screwdriver again to put those 4 screws in place. And that's pretty much it. Now you have the SSD installed. Let's go ahead and put the lid back on, screw it in, and next I'll show you guys how to do a fresh install of OS X Lion. Next thing we're going to do is make sure the USB Lion drive is plugged into your MacBook Pro. Then we're going to power it on, and then you're going to hold the Option key. You should hopefully see the USB thumb drive, so go ahead and click on that, select it so you can boot up and begin the installation of OS X Lion. Now to make sure your hard drive or SSD is formatted properly, what we're going to do before we do anything is go over to Disk Utility again. Now we can either erase it, or I usually do a single partition just to make sure it is formatted correctly. And once that's done, we can go ahead and proceed and install OS X Lion. It should take about 20 to 30 minutes, but after that you are completely done. And lastly, just to cover a couple questions I know I'm going to get. Some of you guys are wondering, how can I get my old information off the hard drive onto the new one? Can it be cloned? Yes, it can. I'll actually post a link if you guys absolutely have to do that, but I usually recommend doing a fresh install for best performance. So if you are going to do a fresh install like I recommend, just make sure to have your major documents backed up so you can transfer those with a hard drive. And the last thing I want to cover is that all 2011 MacBook Pros are SATA 3 6GB capable, so if you have anything prior to that, you're better off getting a SATA 2 SSD. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, the easiest way to get in contact with me is on Twitter at TLD today. There'll be a link to that. If you guys are feeling like being awesome, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe and make sure to check out our latest video with a special guest, Wilson Tech 1. It will blow your mind. Later.